Yes.
And it's nice to see that you didn't let those challenges, you know, like interfere with your education,
Mhm.
and to see that, you know, you have worked your way up to where you are.
Yeah.
Ile kujua mtu haikukuwa affect kwa, you know, your journey.
Yeah.
We applaud you. We applaud
For
you.
me, niliona singeweza kazi ngumu nikigrow up.
Yeah.
Singeweza kwenda shamba, hatukuwa na shamba.
Mm-hmm.
Kwa sisi tuko na a very small piece of land in Obunga.
Yeah.
So for me, it was either education or nothing else.
Books or
So
books.
it was books or books.
Or books.
So
There was no
sisi
way.
usingizi haikuwa.
Mm.
Masomo yetu ilikuwa ile ya kutransnight.
Yeah.
Both in high school and campus.
Yeah.
Ulikuwa unaanza masaa 3 hapo na kakofi kando, unaenda mpaka magidhaa 4 a.m. in the morning or 5. Sometimes you'd read throughout the night and just wash your eyes or face and go to the exam
school.
room.
Wow.
Yes.
Dedication.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying the youths should not wait for the hands to be held.
Mm.
Sometimes force yourself.
Yeah.
Just grab those opportunities.
Impose yourself
yes,
there.
make it difficult for them to ignore you.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very true.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get into the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So as I will call it,
Mm-hmm.
we've had what the youth have had to say in the
Yes.
mtaani,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them, their concern is about them feeling included
Yes.
in affairs of the government, and the underlying message was basically they don't want money, they don't want to be given handouts, they want to feel included, and they want to get chances for employment, and as well as have an environment that is conducive enough for working and for employment and for them to grow.
Yeah.
How has that been reflected in this BBI?
I must start by saying that what we have now, which is called the BBI report, is a recommendation. It's a framework for discussion where we expect people to have discussion around it and improve it. We hope the politicians will not grab this and block the youth out of it.
Yeah.
But to go direct to your question, let me start with inclusivity. Just like I've told you, I am a believer in grabbing. The youth should not wait to be told what the BBI report contains.
True.
The document is online, and I know the difficulties that there are for youth accessing even the online things.
Yeah.
But they should not wait to be allowed to talk about the BBI. We should continue with such discussions that we're having now.
Yeah.
Let them impose themselves. Let them grab opportunities. When there are discussions, like the president said the other day, that now BBI discussions will be through town halls. Let the youths go to those
town halls.
Let them break the doors and get into those town halls, so that they have the discussion. But then what does the BBI report have for the youths? There are very good recommendations that the BBI makes for the youths. It's not that these recommendations have never been made before.
Yeah.
I must be very clear about that, because that's the other question other people are asking.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need BBI to do this? Because this has always been there.
Actually, that you're actually asking the
I have
question
preempted
of
the
you're
question.
preempted, yes.
So,
But you can still go ahead and answer.
so
it, yeah.
basically what I'm saying is that for me, the recommendations, which I'll talk about shortly, are very good recommendations. But the fear that our people have, which I also share, is whether our political class will have the goodwill to make these recommendations a reality.
Yeah.
Because we can have the best of recommendations in writing, but if we don't actualize them, then we will be wasting a lot of time, like we've wasted before.
Yeah.
But one, what does the BBI recommend for the youth? Number one is the establishment of what we call a youth commission.
Yeah.
Which I've seen people ask, and they've asked, what is the difference between this, or what change does it make in terms of having had a National Youth Council, the Ministry of Youth, or Department of Youth before?
The Youth Fund.
There's a big difference in the sense that the commission is now a constitutional commission, and therefore, legally speaking, it is strongly entrenched.
Okay.
Yes, and the purpose of this commission, one, is to champion for the rights of the youths. It is better to have a constitutional commission fighting for a right than a mere statutory body.
Okay.
So that is the difference that we have between the commission and the National Youth Council and these other youth-related funds. The other thing that it does is that it seeks to involve and include youths in both policy and decision-making, so that the youths do not wait at the tail end. Okay. The youths are to be involved right from the inception, where we are talking about how do we conceptualize youth involvement? How do we conceptualize how youths are going to receive resources, etc.
Yeah.
So that's an important recommendation that the BBI report makes.
Okay.
Number two, the BBI report also, as far as the youths are concerned, and this has been talked about, for those school-going youths who know about the Higher Education Loans Board, the HELB, like those of us who are still paying right now, the BBI recommends that before you get a source of income, then you are exempted from paying HELB for at least 4 years.
4 years.
So that, despite it just sounding flowery, I think if it is actualized, that would be a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Which is the other one? We talk about also the tax holiday.
The tax holiday, yes.
As far as the tax holiday is concerned, the BBI recommends that youths will be exempted from paying tax for 7 years. The question is, which people have asked, and I also share, is which of the taxes are they exempted from? My assumption is all the taxes are exempted. My assumption from my reading and interpretation of the report is that the youths will be exempted from all taxes for a period of 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes. What is the advantage of this? Let's break that down a little. The advantage of this, and you've heard the youths raise it, is that they do not need jobs from the government. In fact, it would be over-expecting for any government to say that we can give each of the youths a job. What the youths want, and I agree with them, is a conducive environment to be able to do their own businesses, to be able to be self-employed. And those are the words that the BBI report uses. That the one reason for giving them tax holiday is to enable them have an environment where it's easier to start your own startup, a job. And some have been asking, where do we get these jobs so that we are exempted from the tax?
Exactly.
That would be another step. But for me, the fact that we have removed taxes and very many people are unable to start their own businesses, you've heard one of the youths mention, just because they do not have the taxes to pay and the money to pay for licenses, etc. So that is an excellent recommendation for me.
Okay. I can see people are joining the conversation here. Somebody is asking, my question is, are we as youth ready to work? I think that is in regards to the tax holiday that someone mentioned in the Mtaani, I think. Yeah, I think that was the question. Are we as the youth ready to work?
Yeah. I know that question is intended for the youth themselves. So I would also join from my end. Yes, I think the youth have no choice. For survival, we have to find a way to survive. And one of those ways is to work.
Yeah.
So we are either ready or we must work.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have had it. I would like to hear what you guys think. Whatever questions that you have, send them over. We want to break everything down to the level at which we all understand how this BBI report affects us, how it's going to shape our future, not just now, even for generations to come. So the question that is also being raised by a lot of people is, apart from how we as youth are going to benefit, there's also the question of, as a country, we have gone into serious debt, yet they are adding more seats into the government. And I hear a lot of the youth complaining that, okay, you're complaining there's no money. Yet when you bring in these seats into government, that means our expenditure shoots again. How is that even, how is that practical, first and foremost, and is it of benefit to this country at this point in time?
I am reluctant to slide into the political aspect, but I will answer this differently.
Yeah.
The question to ask, more importantly for me, should not be the cost, although the cost is an important question as well. But the question to ask would be, what is the rationale?
Yeah.
Why are we making this particular recommendation? Why, for example, is the political class making a recommendation for PM post, deputy PMs, and reversing from the CS to ministers, etc. My view, and I believe, and I may be wrong on this, is that indeed our politics is very divided and very divisive. And we need to as we look at our governance, find a way of reducing the divisiveness of our politics. Creation of more posts, in my view, and I said I may be wrong, would help to reduce the chances of the conflicts. And you see, looking at the cost analysis, we've lost so much in time in terms of life. Yeah. When our politics, for example, in 2007 was very conflicted, and we lost very many numbers, I think over 200. Yeah. I do not think that there is money value that could be put to those 200 bodies. Yeah. So that if one way of avoiding such a scenario is to create a few more positions, I would support it. I am not sure that it can or it will, but I would support if I am given a reason to believe that the creation of these positions will reduce the chances of post-election violence and therefore reduce the loss of lives and property that we've witnessed. And for Kenya, we have it. We have the example right before us. Yeah. So the cost analysis is an important one, but let us look at the intended reason for the recommendations. Okay. So for me, I think I wouldn't go into how much we are going to use to pay the additional PM, DPM, although I have also seen the political class explain that it will not increase as much because some of these positions are just being replaced. For example, we will not have a majority leader, leader of minority, because the DPM and PMs will take over those positions. Yeah. The other question that has been very divisive is the issue of gender. And you've seen just recently, the president, the Chief Justice advising the president to dissolve parliament for reasons that parliament had failed on its mandate to enact a law providing for two-third gender rule. So BBI seeks to rectify that problem of gender parity. Yeah. And I know our ladies will want to run away with the BBI because it makes recommendations for the ladies.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, which brings me to the question. This two-third gender rule, it's part of our constitution, yeah? So why do we need the BBI? And I don't know whether we have really fully implemented the 2010 constitution. Why do we need the BBI now?
All right, that's a very good question. Like I started, I said that we have a problem, a difference between recommending and actualizing. Even the laws that have been enacted, and the question that goes around is, why just not implement the 2010 constitution to its fullness?
Yeah, that's the question.
And that's a very important question. But you could see, for example, under the 2010 constitution, as regards the two-third gender rule, it says Parliament shall enact a law for the realization of the two-third gender rule. Yeah. It does not give the four-corner restriction for Parliament, that Parliament must do it within this time, in this manner. So BBI goes a step further than the 2010 constitution and seeks to force parties. For example, there's a recommendation by the BBI that political parties will ensure that the lists that they submit to the IEBC have complied with gender and youth and people with disability requirements, so that we don't fight after they get to Parliament. Your list will not be accepted if it does not meet the two-third gender rule. So that definitely is a big win for BBI, comparing it to the Constitution 2010.
Okay.
Yes.
And I've also seen there's a mention that if you are even governor seats, if you elect one who is a male,
yes,
the
so
deputy
not just electing. If you vie,
female,
if you are to vie as a governor, then your deputy should be. Although questions
gender.
have also been asked that why not provide for the presidency as well, so that we say for a presidential candidate, you must have a female deputy. Yeah. Although I know even without the law, politicians will try to appeal to the ladies and say, I am a presidential candidate, my deputy is a female.
Is a female.
Yes.
Okay, let me check out what people are saying on our YouTube. I can't see really that clearly over here. But keep your questions coming. We are enjoying having your company on our YouTube channel as well. Somebody is asking, Daphne is saying, amazing conversation. Is it that the youth expect too much for it to get to that point, feeling not included in what the government does, or they are just not a priority until they complain?
I think both both parts of that statement is correct. The government has not done enough to include the youths. The youths have been seen as the other part. And that's a difficult one. Although right now you've seen that I've talked about the party lists where the youths and people with disabilities are considered, but you see that women, youth, people with disability, and minorities have now been crowded. It was the same thing in the Constitution 2010. It is the same thing
They've been bundled
in BBI.
into one group.
Like they are one group.
Yeah.
We are looking at a situation where the youth can be addressed separately. Like a distinct individual group, because that way now they get a higher one.
And I feel as though Kenya, our largest population is the youth.
Is the youth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they have missed something in there.
It's missing because decisions are being made that affect a larger number of the population.
Yeah.
Decisions are being made by a fewer number of the population.
Yeah.
But you see the youth again, when time matters, they fail to take the action. People vote in Kenya still, one vote, one person. Youths will also fail us. And I know I have been part of this, fail us and go back to their tribal cocoons and say that we vote according to our tribal leadership.
Yeah.
You know, if we would say that if these people don't make decisions that we are happy with, then the best way to deal with the political leadership is to knock them out.
Yeah.
Just knock them out and get people that you think are going to do it right. If they also fail, we have 5 years every time to do what? To change.
To change them, yeah,
So
exactly.
if the youths cannot also use the ballot, they may need to also blame themselves.
We have the power. We actually have the power.
The people's power.
The people's power.
Yes.
And this BBI will not be, pushed if the youth don't,
If they don't, yes. And that's why the youths must say, we want this rectified in the BBI.
Yeah.
We want this rectified in the Constitution through the BBI. If you don't include this, we are going to drop.
Yeah.
Because politics is about also blackmail. Let them blackmail their political leaders.
Yeah.
Let them get them into action. If you don't give us this, you don't get this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we keep going through our tribal cocoons, then we are going to miss the point.
And youth, please don't let it be just a few people who are out there fighting for us. We have to be out there, in unison, having
and
one
force
voice.
Yourself.
Yes.
Force yourself
Force
into
yourself.
those rooms.
Impose
Grab
yourself into those rooms.
Yes.
Go for those town hall meetings. Those of you who are complaining, you were not involved.
Yes.
I know before the report was released, they held public forums.
Yes.
And it's also happening. So that when they say that there was public participation, you guys who are watching, you're part of this public participation that we are talking about.
Correct.
Michael is asking, the tax holiday thing is not realistic. Youth make up more than 60% of the country. The government depends on taxes as the main source of revenue. How will this work? Does it mean that the other entities will be overtaxed?
That's a good question. And I've seen those whom I would consider opposed to that particular recommendation. The beauty about the law is when the law is there, there has to be compliance. A failure to comply with the law would give you basis to go to the High Court to just force a government or a government agency to get into force. It is the government's business to now ensure that it complies with these promises, which will now become law. Okay. For example, if the government, if it becomes a law that youths will be exempt or will be given a 7-year tax holiday, then once it is law, the youths should put the government to account. The law provides for this.
Yeah.
Make it work. So I refuse to be pessimistic, as Michael is, that it cannot work. What we want is that it is in the law, so that the law is on the side of the youths. The question about whether or not the government will comply with the law is one that we've had a history of, but our courts, which have become very good, increasingly very good, our judiciary has become increasingly very good, will be on the side of the law and therefore on the side of the youth as far as the 7-year tax. And then again, the other thing is not all the youths will require the tax holiday.
Yeah.
I think we also have to be alive to the fact that some youths are already running with their businesses. Some youths are already employed. I am a youth. I am employed, luckily. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing not to be employed. So those of us who are employed will not be seeking, for example, the 7-year tax holiday. The other thing is I've seen people raise a very fundamental question that wakubwa will be sending their children, their youths, to be the ones to be exempted, and therefore
yes.
the actual people who are deserving would be missing. It's unfortunate, but I think still I will run back to the law and just see a way of forcing the judiciary to force the government to comply with the law.
With everything.
And we are always there, especially for people from East Lando and other ghettos.
Yeah.
We are always there to give free legal advice.
Yeah, the
Yes.
ghetto lawyer is
Yes.
available to come to your
Although I can't represent them because I work for the government, but I can always advise them, give free legal advice to ghetto people.
Okay.
Yes.
So what you're saying in essence is the tax holiday will work for the youth who are just starting their own businesses or just starting up.
Correct.
Not
and it
those who are already in business.
That is my interpretation of the same.
Okay.
And it therefore also encourages those who may not have thought of starting their businesses to start, because some of them fear paying 10,000 tax, several licenses. And I think one of the discussions we need to force the political class with is to tell them that there's a lot of, apart from the taxes, there's a lot of licensing fees that people pay.
Yeah.
That should also be included in the discussion. Yes.
Yeah.
So I generally on the aspect of the youths, the BBI report, I think, gives tremendous, absolute recommendations, including youth in the arts. The BBI has emphasized on the question of protection of intellectual property, which covers artists and creatives, so that what we do, and I come from the ghetto, we do a lot of football and other talent.
Theater, there's artists, performing artists.
So we need somebody we need a law, not somebody, but we need a law that then protects our talent and protects our creative arts. So the BBI, by making that recommendation, again, goes a step ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Daphne is also asking, she's back, she's asking, hey, nameshika moto ya hii BBI, but we are loving the questions that you're sending. The BBI also recommends county funds to be raised from 15% to 35% at 35%. Are these funds in any way going to get to the youth?
Oh, okay.
It's a very good question.
That's an excellent question. So apart from the increase from 15 to 35, there is also the provision that that is now the national revenue allocation. But there's also the county revenue allocation, where they say that 5% of county revenue will go to the wards. And then at the wards, the BBI recommends a creation or establishment of incubation centers for the youths.
Yeah.
It also says that every resources that for development that go to the wards and the counties, 30% thereof must be left for that category I was talking about: youths, women, people with disability, and the minority.
Yeah.
So in essence, that money trickles down where development is concerned, where there are procurement-related activities towards the development in the counties and the wards, because there's also the creation by BBI of the Ward Development Fund.
Yeah.
Then the youths must at least claim, together with their counterparts, the women and the people with disability, they claim up to 30%. So yes, that money that comes from the national revenue allocation trickles down to the youths.
Okay.
Yes.
There's another question that Mike is asking. The government is struggling to give 15% to devolution. Will it manage 35%? We already have such a huge debt burden already. He's clearing that by saying national borrowing.
Okay. Can I say something about that?
Yes.
Okay. So
they're actually preempting all my questions, but thank you guys for.
So the Constitution provides that at least 15%. So that has been an argument that the Constitution already provides for what you are suggesting, because the Constitution only says the minimum is 15%. So you can go as high.
Oh, so it's not capped at 15?
No.
Okay.
The Constitution does not cap it. It caps it at the minimum, not the maximum.
Okay.
So it says at least 15%. So the government can decide to go up to 45, 50 if they wanted, and it was they were able.
Yeah.
But because of what I think is competing needs and lack of political goodwill, the battle between the national and county governments, we have not seen a situation where we've had more than 15% going to the counties.
Yeah.
But right now, that minimum has been increased to 35%.
35%.
So while the government could easily give 15% alone, now it can only go to the minimum of 35. So there's an increase, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a big difference of around 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Whether or not it affects our debt burden, I am not an economist, but
Yeah.
it definitely has an influence on the debt budget. But I think there certainly will be a way of complying with that. Whether we are going to take more debts, we've been taking debts and not helping the youth.
Yeah.
If we can now take debts to help youths, I would run away with that.
Well, we are yet to see that happen, and we are really hopeful that that is actually going to happen. But that is a very serious concern that a lot of the youth are complaining. You know,
yes,
you are adding more seats into government, you're bringing in this 35%, and the debt of the country just keeps growing and growing and growing. You know, where does that place us? That has been a very major concern with a lot of the people out there.
I think I need to add, being a prosecutor and dealing with corruption matters, that one of the reasons why our debt may be so high is because of corruption and what I call pillage in the counties and the national government. So that devolution was a very good thing, taking resources closer to the people. Yeah. But just like resources were being wasted at the national government, we created small gods in the name of county governors and other leadership at the counties, who then are now also wasting away resources. The BBI recommends very tough, or rather tougher repercussions for those who are found culpable for corruption. And we are therefore, in my view, I believe with the effort we are putting as the DPP, that we are going to make it very difficult to steal public resources.
Public funds, okay.
If we make it very difficult, then it means that the money that has been wasted away through corruption will be available for development and for the youths. And therefore, we may not need to borrow so much to actualize the recommendations of the BBI.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one last question. I'm going to take this before we wind up this conversation. I know we can talk about the BBI for the whole day. It's a very emotional, discussion.
Yeah.
Joe Candy Ombogo, thank you for watching. He's saying, good moves. How is BBI going to bring peace in the country?
I think we've mentioned that. The reality is that different from other jurisdictions, Kenya is divided into very many political regions.
Yeah.
And one way of bringing peace is appeasing, and this is a reality, appeasing the political godfathers of each region. So the more seats up there to cover for the various political areas is one way. It may not be a sure way, but I believe it is one way of reducing the political tensions, political competitions, and therefore ensuring peace. You can just see from the handshake. I promise not to go to the politics, but you can see the handshake. There has been some calm. There has been a general calm in the country.
Yeah.
So we are hoping that through political processes recommended in the BBI, there will be a reduction of violence during our elections and an increase in the peace.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, before I let you go, one of the pillars that this BBI report was also addressing is how to deal with, the lack of national ethos as a nation. How has that been dealt with in the BBI?
I have a senior friend, a senior advocate called Nongoya, who thinks and believes, and I agree with him, that the main problem that we have is not the laws, but the ethos, the values.
I actually echo him.
So while I agree with that, my view is that it's very difficult to legislate values and ethos. It's very difficult to put good manners into law because good manners are personal. You can't force people through law. Like how will we punish, for example, a person who does not have values, an individual? If you had bad manners, which does not amount to a crime, how do we punish you?
And what is bad manners? Bad manners can be different from what I think is bad manners.
You see, because our morality also are different. So it's very difficult to legislate morality. It's very difficult to legislate bad manners and good manners. So that even with the recommendations in the BBI, I've seen the introduction of an Article 11A because our values are provided for under Article 10 of our Constitution.
Yes.
Most of those, it's very difficult to legislate them. We need to, my suggestion, my recommendations have been, I've done a few papers on this, is that let us introduce good manners and behavior in lower primary school, right from ECDE and churches, so that children grow with good manners. Let us go back to where we started. And when they grow up as good people, then we shall have had a new crop of people. Otherwise, bad manners and good manners is very difficult to legislate.
Oh, I love the way you're saying bad manners and good manners. Anyway, you guys, we want to wind up this conversation. But anyway, keep your comments coming, your views, your questions. There's a question here. As a prosecutor, how can young people participate in the fight against corruption? Because corruption is the biggest burden this country has. I agree with you, Mike.
The BBI recommends what we call a Whistleblowers Act, which protects those who whistleblow. Basically, you've seen somebody who is bad-mannered, a public officer who is behaving badly, misusing public resources to make young girls happy at the expense of development.
Yeah, true.
Your duty. In fact, the BBI also recommends an article on duties of citizens. So it's a duty of a citizen to report. But how then do the youths get involved in the fight against corruption? Report, number one, report. Once you've reported, and this has happened because where I come from in the ghetto, people are very mad when a crime has happened. They are very fast to get to the police station. 1 week later, because our criminal justice system is a little slow, it has calmed down. You start looking for them. They know that this case is coming up for hearing on Tuesday. They get lost. So it's very difficult for investigating officers to get them. So people should come out and report public officers who are badly behaved. Number two, stop giving bribes as an individual. Stop giving bribes. Because when you stop giving bribes, then now the offense of corruption called bribery does not arise. But you see now many people are reluctant not to give bribes because they know they will miss services from poorly behaved public officers, which is the other way to do this. Engage yourself in fair business practices. Yes? Be fair in your acts. Legal, legitimate business. Fungua salon yako, fungua your movie shop, do legitimate business. Pay what you need to pay. Don't pay what you don't need to pay. So that we also are good human beings. The government is a reflection of its citizens.
Very true.
If the people, if the youth behave properly, then we are going to force our leaders to behave properly. And behaving properly includes voting out poorly behaved political leaders.
Exactly. And not taking those 100 bobs and saying that this is mtu that ametusaidia in one way or another.
Exactly.
Wow. We will continue with this conversation till tomorrow if it were possible, but we are running short of time. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm always ready to come back when I have the time because Islando is the ghetto and the ghetto is my heart.
The ghetto is your heart. Ghetto lawyer. We love it. We absolutely loving it. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions you guys might be having, please keep this conversation alive. We are ready. We are always ready to answer your questions and to also link you up with lawyers who can, expand this to the best of your knowledge. Before we take a short break, I would like to find out, do you know what the BBI stands for? If you don't know what the BBI stands for, please, you need to start learning how to participate in this conversation. Tell us up our comments what the BBI stands for. Just the acronym, BBI, what does that mean? As we wind up this discussion, we are going to take a short break. And as you watch what is going to be playing, that is what our youth are doing out there to express themselves in one way or another. Be sure to tune back in. We are coming right back.
And wajikaze, youths wajikaze.
Wajikaze.
Wasingoje serikali wapatie. Especially those from the ghetto. Chapa ball, cheza talanta yako.
Yeah.
Utaomoka. Thank you.